Hi, everybody. Welcome to D&H, our Solutions Lab. It's great to have you and appreciate you taking the time to join us. So welcome to our D&H Lenovo webinar. We're going to talk about maximizing efficiency with Lenovo ST Series, solutions for SMB with some bonus content. My name is Shannon Saksaka. I am with D&H, and I am a business development manager focused on our Lenovo ISG line. That's a mouthful to get all of that out. Together, joining me today on the virtual world is Trish Lombard, who's with Lenovo. She's our distribution account manager, or account executive. My apologies, Trish. And she's dedicated to D&H. So we work closely daily and appreciate all of her support. We also have Mark Bika joining us from Lenovo. He will present the majority of the content today, and we are excited for him to join us. A couple housekeeping issues. Know that there is a Q&A box down there. We would encourage you to ask some questions. We really would love some interaction, and we will answer questions throughout, and then we'll also have some time to answer questions before we wrap up. So with that, I will dive in and just talk a little bit about the agenda. Again, welcome again. We'll cover some of the Lenovo team, which Trish helps head up. We'll talk about D&H and Lenovo ISG, our practice or business unit, and then turn it over to Mark, Q&A, and then wrap up. Hope you stay to the end. We might have some something fun to share at the end. So with that, I will highlight, Trish is on with us. I think you can see her on camera as well. She is the Lenovo ISG Distribution Account Executive. You'll see her contact information. You will get all these slides also, just so you know. Trish works very closely with us, works with the partners, works with the Lenovo channel account managers and all the executives to make sure that we're moving forward. Erica is also part of the team, helping from a ISG Inside Sales Enablement Manager perspective. So she helps us and helps our partners with deal reg and mission acquisition, which we'll talk about. Eugene is on the technical sales side. And then Ray is on the services side, which is exciting. So just know that there's a huge team supporting you, supporting us as we go with Lenovo ISG. So I know Trish likes to share this vision. There's, Lenovo's mission to be the most trusted partner, empowering customers' intelligent transformation, helping solve humanity's greatest challenges. It kind of makes IT a little more interesting when we see it from that lens of humanity's greatest challenges. So I love that. Okay, I like to share our tagline. If you are a current D&H partner, or if you've gone to PartnerFi or Thread events or any of our other content, you'll see that this is our tagline. I love it. We live it, and we've had a lot of growth over the past handful of years. So with that, I'm going to kick it off with a poll, because I'm not sure. I can't see how many people are on, but we had a bunch of people register. So let's talk about a poll. How long have you been a D&H partner, or how long have you specifically worked with D&H? We'd love to get an idea of what your relationship is with us currently. So we'll give you a couple seconds to answer. I'll play the Jeopardy clock in my head, or the theme, and then we'll go from there. And don't be shy, please. All right, it's starting to come in a little bit. Give it a couple more seconds. And then so how many years, or how long have you been a D&H partner? Okay. We have a pretty good sampling. So let's move to the results. Well, exciting. So here's, someone's not on mute, I'm not sure who that is. But exciting results. Why I love to ask this question, because it gives us some perspective. We have some folks who've been with us for 10 plus years, some, for 5 to 9, and then some newer partners, less than 5 years. So to all of you, thank you for partnering with us. We're excited to learn more about you and for you to learn more about D&H and obviously Lenovo ISG. All right, so perfect kind of segue into this slide. Talk about built for growth. At the end, the most exciting thing to share is that we've been growing significantly, 3 times the rate of the competition over the past 10 years. You'll see some of the highlights with the double-digit commercial growth and also our growth within these specific markets. We definitely are outpacing the market across all segments, and I love to be able to share the 100% organic growth. That's really applies to the Lenovo ISG practice as well. But growth is the name of the game. We're built for growth, and we appreciate your support in getting to these numbers. So I kind of told a lie. I said I work for D&H. The reality is I'm a co-owner. So D&H is an employee-owned organization, an ESOP. That's pretty exciting. It's really cool for the culture, and what that means for the culture is that we're very much invested in the success of our company, thus very invested in working with our partners and our vendor partners. If I were to extract a couple things from this slide, I would highlight that there's 550 salespeople, over 200 new roles were added since 2021. I'm one of those new roles. A lot of that was focused on the advanced technologies, as well as providing additional support to our partners. So that's a pretty big one. The new warehouse has expanded space. Obviously, our supply chain services, the credit, we've gone through major overhauls there. Professional services, Tech Drive is our in-house marketing organization. I've talked to partners who have used that, and Rave, and also our investments in Modern Solutions and our operations in Canada. So those are some pretty cool things to share as far as our growth. So just like Lenovo, if you're an IDG partner and you're working with Lenovo closely, you know that they have a motion around Lenovo 360. This slide is just to drive that home from a D&H perspective. Obviously, we have a very strong practice on the IDG side. And on our ISG side, we are able to support server storages of the entire portfolio. So just like to highlight that, because even 18 months into this practice, we still have partners that are not aware that we're able to support you. So just know that from a 360 motion, Lenovo 360 motion, we are here to support you all the way around. Okay, so now on to our team. I love to highlight our team and kind of sing some praises. I have the pleasure of working with Jason Sagansky, who is also a business development manager. We are field focused, working with D&H field, working with inside sales, ultimately working with you guys on the partner side and with Lenovo to drive the ISG message. Drew, Dylan, and Morgan are the specialists on the team, so you will work with them, or you will engage in terms of getting quotes. They can also support you from a deal-rich perspective, mission acquisition, which I'll talk about, as well as anything else. Big takeaway here up top, you'll see a Lenovo server at dnh.com. That is the email for you to use. Always feel free to copy in your sales team. But regardless of where your journey is, that's the best way to engage us. And we like to say, we will meet you where you are. We have some partners who are comfortable on the hub. We have other partners who are even more comfortable doing their own configurations. But we want you to know that we're here to support you. From a configuration support, Joel is our technical resource. I will tell you that the next time you see this slide, you'll probably see 3 to 4 more folks on it. So we're continuing to grow in support of our partners. And again, we'll meet you where you are. We have some partners who say, here's the specs, limited specs. This is what we know. Can you help do a build? Joel will engage and ask questions as needed. And we also have partners who come with a build and want Joel to validate. So we will meet you where you are, and we look forward to working with you. Don Lazaro is our VBM, who helps us pull together events like this, executive briefings down in Raleigh and such. So we are continuing to do a lot of those activities. So thank you again for attending this. So big question, are you currently leveraging the Mission Acquisition Program? It's a fantastic program. It's gone through some changes, and I am curious on if you are leveraging. So poll question, if you don't mind participating, I'd greatly appreciate it. And if you don't know it, if you don't know what the program is, then you're going to respond no. I think that's obvious, but just in case. And then we'll talk a little bit about the program, because it's a game changer and a program you definitely want to know about. Okay, we're getting up there. We're at 39% of participation. Looking for a slightly higher number. Let's see. There we go. We're getting there. Okay. So I feel like we can move. Oh, it's still climbing. Let's see. Drum roll. All right. Wow. You guys did very well. The participation was very good on this one. All right. So I'm going to click to see what our results are. So Kind of makes me sad, but I also see, and Trish, you're probably thinking this means opportunity to talk about the program. So with almost 74% people not knowing about the program, we'll take some time to talk about it. So some of you may know it as the new customer bonus previously. It's been around for a little bit. It's been a little bit focused on the IDG side. That's maybe where you know it, but there's some expansion and definitely supporting the ISG portfolio. So the changes that were effective July 1st are huge. Upfront discounts. The discount is now 10%. I think that's up from 5%. And it can be used in collaboration with Deal Reg. So you talk about Deal Reg, you talk about the mission acquisition program. What I see for our partners and for us is that you have an opportunity now to really compete against competitors out there. You have an opportunity to make sure that you're being profitable as well, and just go after new customers. So the only caveats here, it's pretty little, is that, and it's eligible for all channel partners and your eligible customers, as long as they have not purchased anything from the ISG portfolio over the past 3 years, anything greater than $3,000, they will qualify. So again, you'll get this slide. We're happy to walk you through that. I did mention on the team side, we'll help you with the deal regs if need be. Mission acquisition and deal reg are both done through the partner hub. And depending on where you are with that comfort level, we can support you. So that's a pretty big program. I think it highlights the investment that Lenovo ISG is making into the server storage space and the ISG portfolio to go after new customers and new business. So it's a great program. If you're not using it, let's definitely talk about it. Also like to highlight the alliance partners, just so that you know that these are key partners and key alliance partners for Lenovo. Many of these you can purchase on Lenovo paper. Veeam is a great example. Impacts your tiering with your Lenovo tiering, but also can impact your positively without impacting your Veeam relationship. So it's a strong partnership that we have with Veeam, as well as some of these other alliance partners. So keep that in mind. A lot of our partners are surprised to see. And then obviously there's some great momentum around the AI innovator space, which we can talk to as well. All right, so we are going to lead into Mark's content here. So the easy question, yes or no, is are you selling towers today? We'd love to know what your comfort level is today. We'll give you a couple seconds to answer that question. We're getting there. We're still under my mark, folks, but let's see. We got to hit the mark to get to Mark. No. Bump. All right, let's see here. We're getting there, getting close. And again, just a reminder, the question Q&A box, it sounds like we might have some questions down there. All right. I think we're good enough to submit. All right, so good news here, Mark. 75, almost 76% of today's attendees are selling towers. So opportunity to talk about then Lenovo towers and then overall the portfolio. And then for those 24%, we'd love to engage with you where there's opportunities. So I appreciate your time on my part of the show. I'm going to get ready to turn it over to Mark here.
All right. Can you hear me okay, Shannon? I'm going to take that as a yes.
Yes, we can hear you, Mark. I'm sorry. My apologies.
No problem. Hey, everybody. Mark Bika here to talk to you about our ST line, or our ThinkSystem tower portfolio here. Do want to talk a little bit Lenovo portfolio first, get into the tower business, as well as a little differentiation in that. So with that said, I'm just going to go ahead and start into it. So I wanted to start off with giving an update is, as we call it here, the picture of the kids. These are all of the servers that we currently have on the truck here at Lenovo available to sell to all of our customers. As mentioned, obviously, we're going to be focusing on those ST, that T for tower, just like R for rack or E for edge. But we do have the need to bleed over into some rack servers in those conversations, as well as edge. And I want to make sure we can kind of differentiate that. If we think of it as far as a near edge compared to a far edge kind of a conversation out there. So before I get into that, just beat our chest a little bit on why Lenovo. As you can see here, we've got #1 server reliability for 10 years and running, as well as #1 for security, unexpected downtime there by the ITIC report. And it was great to see some mention of Lenovo Press on some of the previous sites. You can see that I've added some links in here to these if you guys are interested in reading in or double clicking into some more of that information out there. But we do take some pride in that reliability, especially that we've had it for that long. And on the subject of security, that is the #1 reason for unexpected downtime with our customers out there. So it does make sense that we can support both there. Moving the right a little bit, you can see that we're now up to 587 current world record benchmarks. That's more than the rest of the industry combined. So we really like to be able to beat our chest about that. It's worth both Intel as well as AMD CPUs, but it really speaks volumes to the fact that we can support any of our customers' workloads, no matter how big or small that might be. And last but not least, talking about those bigger workloads, you can see that we are #1 for 6 consecutive years as far as the top supercomputers out there. So I've been running since about 2017, I believe, currently sitting at about 167 of those. So about a third of the market out there in the world is running Lenovo supercomputers. And that's #1 in half of the markets that are involved with that as well. So getting down into the towers, towers have been around for a long time. We've seen them come, we've seen them go. But the reason that we offer these tower servers is so that our customers can have that ability to run some compute outside of their data center. And I refer to that as near edge because we're not getting to the extremes that we can do with our true edge products, but really looking more into that office type, SMB, robo type of deployments out there to bring that compute where we need it. Especially now that we have all these different type of hybrid clouds we're all working with, we still have needs to have compute on site, as you can see here. As you can see, very flexible. We can do a lot with these towers. They're freestanding. So one of the benefits or main reasons you would go for a tower is that you don't have that rack infrastructure on site maybe. Or maybe you want to bring that box closer to a desk or countertop or something like that within a business. So for that reason, it's a great first server to at least start running that business, no matter if it's keeping some security surveillance on site or running a point of sale. Anything along those lines, we can take care of our customers with our tower servers there. So this is the current family that we have as far as the towers. We got 4 of them here. I'm going to start from the big guy, move way to the back to something that we actually just announced today, but I'll hold back on that one. But like I was saying, flexibility, the reliability, and the security are all main reasons that we have this. Do want to call out, you can see that we were the first to enable Intel's transparent supply chain. I should have cleaned that up. We've actually removed that from our portfolio, but we have a follow-on that we'll be able to do that so that we can go ahead and ensure that our products are coming from the direct OEMs and not any counterfeit or anything along those lines. Really something that came about during COVID and the concern about what was going on throughout the industry and moving through the market out there. So as far as these 4 servers, you can see, starting at the bottom left is the new one, the ST45V3. For those of you that aren't aware, the way that we name these servers, if it ends in a 0, it's going to be running on an Intel CPU. If it runs in a 5, that means it's going to be an AMD CPU. So we have our first AMD tower just launched today, as you can see there down at the bottom. And as far as comparing it to maybe like the ST50V3 above that, you can see that there are some differences. I'll get into the weeds a little bit on that. Basically made some battle cards that we can share as far as the decks here. But the big thing on that is going to be able to give our customers that ability for a 24/7 compute at a very cost advantage type of solution. So with the ST45, we're really looking around in that $500 to $600 cost point. Again, it's an open entry type of a server out there just to get out there. Now, following up, moving into ST50V3 running on Intel, you can see that we do have 3 by 3.5 inch hard drives available. So for those customers trying to get a RAID 5 out of this really small box, we can go ahead and accomplish that. But we now have our Xclarity controller built into this box as well. So now we can go ahead and give our customers, as well as you, our partners, or maybe a service provider, that ability to get a low-cost tower compute solution on site with the ability to manage that remotely. So because of some of these extra bells and whistles in comparison to the ST45, we're really looking at that price of around $800 to $900 for a server like the ST50 out there. And again, both of these servers are what we refer to as library whisper quiet, meaning that if you are putting it under the desk or very close sitting by it or anything, you're not going to be hearing that server. So it's ideal for that front office type of engagements out there as far as getting a compute solution out there. Now, scaling up to the ST250 V3, you can see there, again, Intel, just like the ST50, running on the Xeon E Series CPUs, but a little bit bigger. That means we can get some more PCIe slots. We can get some more drives in there, better configurations. We actually have some customers running localized AI like Lambda or ChatGPT out of these boxes on site for their own office needs out there. But again, those any type of those large deployments we have out there at multiple locations, the ST250 is going to be able to give you that, as well as the management with Xclarity. Now, with those additional bells and whistles, we're really looking at a price point more along the lines of that $1,500 to $1,600 difference there. But again, depends on what kind of what you're needing as far as PCIe slots and how many drives you're going to want within that box compared to the ST50. And then last but not least, you can see the big guy up there, the ST650 V3. Again, so that is an ST6. A 6 is a number that we consider a mainstream class of compute, just like our SR650 V3 rack server that we have there. So that's really built to be able to run those mainstream type of applications, but again, outside of the data center. Ideally, we have rack infrastructure. We can go ahead and put pizza boxes in all day to go ahead and support our virtualization or whatever workloads we're working with. But without that luxury, we do have these type of towers out there, not only for running that compute, but also if we're starting again to talk about AI, maybe we're training some large language models. The 650 V3 there has enough space that we can put some of those double wide GPUs in there and really get that muscle so that we can get some bang for our buck out of there. So as you can see, again, this is virtually what we were just looking at, but I want to show the ST45 and ST50 side by side. They're actually using the exact same chassis we have there, just a little bit of different internals out there. The ST250 now, like I was saying, is a little bit bigger. In this example, we're showing it with 16 2.5-inch drives, but we can also get 8 3.5-inch drives in that platform. And then the ST650 is where we can really start getting up to 20 drives within that box. Get a lot more compute out there. A matter of fact, an interesting thing, the ST650 as well as the ST250 or any of these, you are able to put these racked. So we can install these in a rack if you need it. Ideally, you would be purchasing a tower because we don't have that infrastructure, but maybe a small business is growing and they want to still use that box, but now they're bringing more infrastructure in. We can go in sideways. We have conversion kits so we can rack those out there. Again, as well as the 250 and the 650s, we do have some customers using them because they need that compute with an optical disk drive. It's not very common that we see a lot of DVD drives out there, especially within rack servers. But with these tower servers, we can give that ability out there for our customers. So again, starting with that ST650 V3, as you can see, great box for virtualization, private cloud, again, running outside of the data center, for that compute where we need it out there. You can see that we can do a lot more generation to generation compared to the previous second generation that we had out there. But we have a lot more capabilities and ability to add stuff. As you can see, 9 PCIe slots using both PCIe Gen 4 and 5 out there. So we can get some of the latest networking cards out there to support whatever we're working on. As far as for a battle card, I'm not going to read through all these. I just wanted to make sure that I had the ability to share these in one central location with everybody out here. But you can see out there that it does support both 4th as well as the 5th gen Xeon scalable processors out there, up to 250 watts. So we do have limitations on our rack servers, but also on our tower servers as well. We did talk about all the drives you can get on there. As you can see, 32 2.5-inch drives. So if we're working on something really deep, maybe a video surveillance, we can do 16 3.5 out there if needed out there. So with the latest 24 terabyte drives, that's going to be a lot of data we can store out there. Also, you can see we've got the networking, mentioned PCIs, 4 of those double wide GPUs out there, but we do have the full Xclarity controller out there as well as Xclarity administration for not only doing that remote management or deployment, but also starting using that predictive failure analysis as well. So we can really manage these servers, especially since they're outside of the data center, usually in locations that we don't have people on site to deal with there.
Hey, Mark.
Yes.
We do have a question from Jim. He's asking any plans for an ST255 type box with a single EPYC 9004/5.
Oh, I see what you're saying there. So currently we're running on the 4004 series. So I think AMD is really positioning these not only with workstations, but also the ability to compete with the Xeon E series from Intel. So currently we do not have anything on the record for this. We just came out with this box. But with the growth that we've been seeing from AMD, I wouldn't count anything off the table at this point there as well.
Great. We have one more, if I can just interject still.
Absolutely.
Rodney, and you're going to get to some of this, I think, but it says, Rodney's asking, how do these servers compare to edge computers?
Yeah, great question. I actually have some stuff later on. I want to get to that. I've actually seen a lot of opportunities where sometimes we were positioning those edge servers because of the uniqueness. I'm leading with a tower. The towers are going to have a tremendous cost advantage compared to edge because you're paying for that form factor, that resilience out there with temperature and so forth. But Rodney, if you can just hold off, I'm going to get to that once I get through all these sites here. So getting back into the towers, again, here's that ST250. Like I said, no current AMD looking at that, but we do have the Xeon E series that scale up to 8 cores out there. You can see that we have the ability to also put that security bezel out there. Again, with these tower servers, we are putting these in those locations where maybe that we have high traffic on foot by people that maybe employees, maybe not even employees. This way we can make sure that we have some more security as far as physical around this, that nobody's going to be pulling any hot swap drives, shutting anything off or anything along those lines. So then again, getting into the battle card, you can see that we're going to have a lot of similarity with the ST50, except the fact with this is that we can get those PCIe cards in there. We can do a lot more storage, as you can see, again, 8 by 3.5, 16 by 2.5, but as well as having that Xclarity so we can manage that out there. All right, so moving down again to the ST50 V3, again, that smaller box, you can see it's 17 liters, that library quiet whisper acoustics. The one thing though is that you'll notice that this doesn't have any hot swap drives. One of the trade-offs we're going to keep costs down is that these are actually built into the server with some plastic trays we use, but we don't have that ability for the hot swap. But again, most of the time where we're installing these, that's not something we really need to take care of on there. But again, so these go up to 8 cores. You can see that they've got 4 DIMMs, just as all of the E-series CPUs do. Compared to the ST50 V2, we now have that manageability out there with Xclarity, as well as the ability to do 3.5-inch hard drives for RAID 5 out there. And then, as you can see, we've got a couple PCI slots there and some other things. Now to the new guy, and I just had to make sure, I'm looking at the product guide up on Lenovo Press on this other screen in front of me. Just wanted to make sure we're live on there. But this is going to be the equivalent of the ST50, but scaled down a little bit as an entry type of tower server. And you can see we are using those 4004 processors. I believe that we are scaling up to 12 cores on those, at least the 65-watt CPUs out there. So we don't have as much of the full Xclarity, but we have LXPM Lite is what we call that. What LXPM Lite is really the ability to use a thumb drive with a USB so that we can go ahead and load an OS onto this server. We can clone this server from one to another as well. Unfortunately, to keep costs down, we do not have the ability for the remote management like we do in the new ST50 V3 or the ST250 on this. So just looking at the battle card, explaining this thing a little bit more, as you can see, this only has 2 DIMMs out there, but they are DDR5, so we can get a max of 64 gigs of memory out there. We can get up to the 12 cores, up to 65-watt CPUs out there. And then you can see there's a few different options. We can get you that 3 by 3.5 inch, but it's not going to allow you to also have that optical disk drive. I mentioned the XPM Lite. You can see that we got that RAID controller, the 5350. One thing to keep to note is that as we were excited to get this to market, we are still working on things, especially here at Lenovo. Whenever we have any NPI or new product introductions, we usually do things in waves, really trying to focus 80% of the market with wave one, and then additional bells and whistles in wave two. With that said, we are still working with AMD to get some software RAID support in this box. So as you can see, we've got a by 16 PCIe and a by 1. So that by 16, we can either use that RAID card or we can add in additional networking. As you can see, it only has a single 1 gig embedded on there. And it is dedicated for networking. As this doesn't have Xclarity, there's no shared management within that. But you see that there is another PCI slot by 1. And technically that we don't have anything within the Lenovo ISG portfolio that low powered that we could go ahead and use that slot. But we will have the ability to use that for something like if you wanted to put a USB hub or something along those lines. But again, by 1's very low powered, so we'll have limitations there. But as we work towards getting that software RAID, I do want to call out that we are limited to that one single by 16. So if you are adding in the RAID card to get maybe RAID 5 out of those 3.5-inch drives, we will not be able to add any additional networking. Also the same if you're trying to add in additional 1 gig connections or maybe 10 gig base T connections into this, it's going to limit us on that RAID controller. But we should have that within 2 months out there so we can have the software RAID and really bundle all of that together out there.
Mark, we do have a question on the ST45. I'm sorry, Trish, you're probably going to bring it. Larry's asking, should we assume the ST45 version 3 pre-installed memory is 1 or 2 modules?
Yeah, so we don't have any pre-installed memory on these. Just like any of our other servers out there, totally customizable within DCSC. So you can choose to either have 1 or 2 DIMMs, and by 2 DIMMs, we have 16 and 32 gig DIMMs. So 232 is how we'd be able to get to the 64 gigs.
Great, thank you.
All right, and I know we're focusing on towers here, but I did want to bring in some other stuff as far as completing the whole edge decor type of conversation here, especially with that SR250 V3 that we're looking at right here. So the SR250 is, we all call servers pizza boxes. I call this our true pizza box because it's 19 inches by 19 inches square. So we can go ahead and maybe put this on a 2-post rack. This server actually uses the same system board as that ST250. So we're going to get them out the same bells and whistles out there, obviously a little bit less drives on the form factor, but maybe that customer has a small closet in the back or some type of a 2-post rack with just some networking or maybe some storage or something along those lines there, and put in a rack, save that area or at least the physical space out there, and put in the rack where we already have all the other networking and available access to that stuff. So we do see a lot of customers using both of these, sometimes in conjunction, but really depending on their local physicality and what they have on site that they can go ahead and support this compute out there. So again, to the battle card on this, want to show you, it is a 1U server. I mentioned it's 19 inches by 19 inches, so it's totally square. Much lighter than a traditional pizza box, so we can use that 2-post rack out there. It does have 2 1 gigs embedded, and then 1 is a dedicated management out there. Obviously, the rack server is going to be a little bit more important. Do want to call out with my friends out there, looking at the rear of this, you can see that we do have 2 PCIe slots out there. So we can go ahead and use those. However, there is also what we call, as you see, a CFF, or a compact form factor. So there is another internal slot where we can use a CFF RAID card. So if you're trying to get a RAID card and 2 PCI cards in there, I highly recommend you go with that compact form factor internal so that you still have access to those external facing PCI slots for whatever networking that you may need to put into this box. And so that's the entry rack server that we have. Just to kind of roll it all together to complete it out. Just so you can see the family of all the rack servers that we have out there. Specifically starting at the bottom, the SR250 V3 is our only single socket ThinkSystem server. I should rephrase that. we do have the single socket HS350X. If you're not familiar with that, it's got 8 3.5-inch drives. So it's a single socket 2U server that we can get 24 3.5-inch drives in, as well as 2 in the back. So if you're looking hyperconverged storage and compute, that might be a box you're looking at. But rounding out our single sockets, you can see that we've got the 635V3 and a 655 out there that we do support with the latest AMD CPUs. We'll also be bringing in the Turin CPUs. We've already announced those, and we should be shipping those very soon out there. But these are only supporting a single CPU in there. And the reason we do that is because once we introduce 2 CPUs into one of these servers, we have to split the PCI lanes. So if you want to use all the PCI slots in this server, you actually are required to use both of the CPUs on there. So from some of those customers that have more of a dense workload that they would rather just work with a single CPU out there, maybe for licensing purposes or anything along those lines, we can go ahead and do that with the 35 and the 55. But rounding it up into 2 sockets, as you can see, our traditional rack servers up there, starting with that 645, a 1U, 2-socket AMD, going all the way up with our 2 sockets. And last but not least, you can see that we've got the 670 and the 675 up there, those GPU-rich servers, like the 675, which is a great box if you're trying to do any kind of OVX or digital twins, or actually even with the ability to put 8 GPUs in that box. It's a great device if you're working on any type of RAG AI, so that we can go ahead and have that muscle at inference versus just fine-tuning a large language model.
Hey, Mark, we have a question.
Yeah, absolutely. I can get a sit. Sounds good.
All right. So Chow's asking, how many hot swap hard drives can the SR250 support?
10 2.5-inch or 4 3.5-inch. So it is a little bit more limited as far as those bigger ones. Again, the ST250, we can do either 8 of the 3.5 or 16 of the 2.5, but the form factor dictates what we can put in that one.
Great. Awesome. Thanks for the question and answer.
All right. Now getting back to Rodney's conversation is about the edge servers here. So first I want to start at the left with our edge clients, as you can see there. These are IoT devices in a sense. These are not made for any type of keyboard, mouse, monitor. These are aggregates. They're great for collection of information, like maybe from sensors or for cameras or something along those lines. They're great gateways for that purpose, but they really lack that ability to do some enterprise crunching out at the edge, especially as I mentioned earlier, with all these hybrid cloud initiatives that all of our customers have out there. It doesn't make sense a lot of the times to take that all that information and compute it back in the data center when we can get closer out there, extending edge or extending our AI out towards that edge there. For that purpose, you can see that we have our edge servers there. Starting with that SE350, should probably take that one out of there. If you look at the bottom right, you'll notice that we are looking at withdrawing that at the end of March. So we're about 3.5-ish months away from that. But that is dependent on supply. We are trying to sunset that, do last time buys for a lot of those larger customers that are still doing rollouts with that box there. But we do have the competing SC350 there, which is the newer version of that, as well as the 360 V2. So those 2 boxes actually share the same system boards out there. The difference is going to be a 1U versus a 2U. And with the 360 V2, you can see that we have some PCI slots in there. So really, the 350 V2 is going to be a great ideal box for extending your cloud out to that far edge or wherever you need it, where the 360 V2 is extending that AI edge out there because we can get a little bit more muscle in there with GPUs to do a little bit fancier transactions of that data. And then moving over to the right, you can see with the 450 and the 455, these are going to be more similar to like an SR650 2U server, but in a compact form factor. So these boxes are both 19 inches wide. Again, can put them in a 2-post rack or a 4-post rack, but vary between about 12 to 17 inches deep. So a lot more compact. And the reason they're those lengths is because is because we have the ability to put 2 of those double wide GPUs in there. So depending on how much we're trying to crunch out there at the edge, maybe the 455 would be a better reason to look at that server compared to some of the other ones out there. But again, we call these edge servers because of their tolerance to extreme weather, not weather, but temperatures, as you can see. A great example is that 360. I was just talking with a university in our briefing center yesterday that is way up there by the Canadian border, and they have some very cold temperatures they have to deal with, as well as some outlying posts that they have to use. So as you can see, that 360 can go all the way down to -20 Celsius and all the way up to 65 Celsius, which is like 149 degrees Fahrenheit, which is crazy. Obviously, with any of these edge servers, those fans are going to start whipping a little bit more depending on how much heat we're trying to push out of there. So they're not going to be like an ST45 or ST50 that you can put on your desk, kick your feet on, and forget it's there. But these, again, these allow us to bring that compute out towards the edge where we really need it out there.
Great.
And with all that, that's what I got, guys. Hopefully this has been helpful. Hopefully we got some more questions out there.
We have
Shannon,
one in the,
I'll throw it over to you.
Yeah, we have one in the hopper, as they say, but by all means, if you have questions, pop in the Q&A and enter the question. Scott's asking, on an SC250, is there any SSD combo not limited to the 6 gigabit SATA bus? Hopefully I asked that correctly.
I'm not sure on that one offhand. I know that we've been working a lot more with 12 gigs out there. It would be listed out on the product guide. But Scott, if I got your name there, let me follow up with you on that and do my research before I misspeak live on camera in front of a lot of people.
All right. Any other questions? Feel free to type them in there. Speaking of camera, apparently there was a glitch, and even though my camera's on, apparently I'm not showing. So my apologies for that. I'm looking through the Q&A, Mark, to see if there's anything else. Any questions? You know, we should have asked.
Oh,
you know, go on.
Yeah, great question. I can see the chat here. So I see that we have VGA ports, DisplayPort or HDMI coming. That's a great question, especially with our rack servers. I'm not sure why everybody is still using VGA. It makes more sense. I will tell you, with the ST45, though, I believe that the default on there is going to be DisplayPort. But we do have those dongles if you need to go to HDMI or maybe back to VGA for whatever reason out there.
Great. All right. So a couple of things as we wrap up. Again, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it. I will not complain about how cold it is here after hearing Canada weather. Actually, Chow has another question. What best practices should I follow for thermal management to maintain optimal performance?
Ooh, thermal management to maintain optimal performance. I guess it really depends on if you're speaking about a tower server as far as making sure it has the right airflow. With the tower servers, at least the smaller ones, we don't have any concerns on that. Now, the ST650 V3, like I was saying, we limit to 250 watts, especially if you start getting some of those GPUs in there. But for the most part, Lenovo goes ahead and takes care of a lot of that thermal management for you. If you're not familiar with our Neptune branding, it is our line of liquid cooling. We've actually been doing liquid cooling and direct water cooling for 12 years now. This is our 6th generation that we're just coming out with, but we've got a lot of hybrid solutions out there. A lot of the new stuff we're seeing CPUs reach excess of 500 watts, GPUs reaching 1,200 watts. So the ability to cool these servers is getting a lot harder, at least these pizza boxes. A great example is a one-use server. It's really hard to get airflow to where you want in there compared to like a two-use server, where if we block you off some space from having drives, we can funnel that air in a little bit better, put some baffles to get it where we need the heat to be dissipated. Above and beyond that, once we start reaching some limitations where air isn't available to do that, we do have hybrid solutions like our thermal transfer modules that are heat sinks with sealed liquid. And a lot of stuff that we're doing now for these really hot CPUs is using what we call Lenovo's L2A, or liquid to air, which is essentially a hybrid solution where, for lack of better terms, we're putting a radiator in front of the fans and pumping that liquid, not water, closed loop, liquid to the heat sinks on top of the CPUs. And then above and beyond that, if you want to get into what we're doing as far as the direct water cooling in data centers and all of that, it's a lot longer conversation I welcome having.
Awesome. Great content, Mark. We really, really appreciate it. I think that might be it in the
Absolutely.
Q&A. I'm just looking through to see. Again, we thank you for your time. A couple of things as far as we wrap up. This will be loaded on our on-demand solutions lab at www.dnh.com/solutionslab. That's a mouthful. If you have any questions, you can email me at socksaka@dnh.com, but also Lenovo server at dnh.com. And then just want to remind you that we are going to host a storage webinar on the 17th. So a lot of exciting content and opportunities around the storage. It's called Maximizing Storage Solutions, and learning the latest on NAS, SAN, and flash array. I can't read my own handwriting, Mark. Apologies on that. And then also want to let you know, we did not put this in the invite, but everyone who attended today is eligible for, we're going to do a prize drawing for something pretty cool. You're going to get to pick either a solo stove or an espresso machine. So if you want to, drop your preference in the Q&A, we'll make note of that. So we'll have one winner, and we will be reaching out to that winner. So we appreciate your time. I think we've wrapped up everything. No more questions. Thank you for your support. Thank you for your business. If you're one of those who's been with us for a long time, we appreciate it. If you're in the newer working with D&H, we look forward to getting to know you. Also, I did forget this last question. So if you're interested, just drop a yes in the Q&A. If you would like to meet the Lenovo D&H ISG team, and would love to have a 30-minute call to introduce Joel and Dylan, Morgan, Drew, and myself. So if you're interested in that, just comment yes to call. We'd love to chat with you a little and learn more about your organization. So with that, we will wrap up. I'm seeing so I like that, either prize. Okay, awesome. All right. And we got a couple yeses, so we'll leave that open for a little bit. And thank you for your time.
Thanks, everyone.